There is no doubt that we all make mistakes. No one makes a mistake, but one mistake from another makes a difference. It may not harm anyone, or its consequences may remain limited, but other mistakes may have disastrous consequences. But before we start, if you are still new to the channel, do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell to receive our videos. On the 3rd day of November in the year 2004, there was a worker named Patrick who was working in a fireworks warehouse located in the Cest area in the Kolding district in Denmark. Patrick was supposed to transport a box of fireworks moved from one place to another, but he was too lazy to get a forklift to transport the boxes with, and he decided to carry the box on his shoulder and walk with it. Patrick, while he was walking, fell and slipped, and the box fell with him. Literally, the box exploded. And warehouse. 284 tons of fireworks were exploded and destroyed the place. Unfortunately, the explosions extended to the outside of the warehouse and hit 350 full houses, and the authorities were forced to evacuate 2,000 people from the area. In addition, the explosion and fires led to the injury of 17 residents, 34 members of the rescue team, and the death of one firefighter, countless examples due to a laziness. At exactly 8 hours and 37 minutes, on the evening of July 13, 1977, 3 powerful lightning strikes struck the Indian Point nuclear power plant in New York State, and the result was a power outage in the most important city in the United States of America. The evidence remains in the matter that in cases like this, there should have been an emergency protocol. It works so that the electricity is restored within 15 minutes at the latest. But because of the operator in charge that day has never encountered this emergency before, he does not know how to react well, and the power outage that was supposed to last for 15 minutes continues. For a full 25 hours, the issue did not stop here because the electricity was cut off for a long time. The gangs present in the poor neighborhoods began attacking the rich neighborhoods and the shops, and on this day, theft spread. The looting is terrifying, but people are tired of the interruption. They took the streets and traffic stopped completely, and New York turned into a state of complete chaos. After the end of the crisis and the restoration of power, the result was 2,600 thefts of homes and stores, several damage to buildings, and 7 reports of fire to various properties. 550 policemen were injured, 3,400 were arrested in New York City, and the New York Stock Exchange lost $20 million at that time. However, the government was forced to pay $4 million in salaries and bonuses to the police and firefighters due to the overwork. The total losses were estimated at approximately $300 million, and some statistics say that the cost reached $1 billion, and keep in mind that it was in the year of 1977, and after investigations, it became clear that the whole issue was caused by the employee who was supposed to reconnect the electricity. All he had to do was to arrange a group of emergency switches in a specific sequence. Indeed, it turned out that he had done the sequence correctly, leaving just one switch, but one switch that worked incorrectly and did not put it in the right direction. It cost New York a whole $1 billion. On May 1952, after a huge propaganda campaign, the DH-106 Comet, nicknamed the Comet, made its first-ever commercial flight, departing from London Airport to Johannesburg Airport in South Africa. The purpose of this flight was to demonstrate the capabilities of the new aircraft. During the long flight which was about to be destroyed, this first flight was supposed to be made. The plane was making 4 different stops, but the plane was able to make it in a direct flight in one time. The plane was faster than any other civilian plane by 160 kilometers per hour, and the comfort is intuitive. Larger chairs, luxurious seats, and food from the finest restaurants. The surprise was that the plane provided with windows. Civilian planes until that time did not have windows for passengers, because the planes up to this point were more fake than good-looking. It is important to feel comfortable and arrive safely. These words have made the prices of tickets very expensive. You can say that this plane was the Titanic of the planes at that time. Unfortunately, its fate did not differ much from the fate of the Titanic. On the 26th of October, 1952, in less than 6 months from the beginning of service, there was a crash and the plane crashed with all its passengers. What is surprising is that the issue did not stop with just one plane, but on March 3, 1953, after about 4 months another plane, the same model crashed. And after 3 months in May 1953, a third plane crashed. And finally, on January 10, 1954, 7 months later, the fourth plane took place, and with it, the model was cancelled forever. Of course, with every accident that happened, the engineers were going crazy and doing tests. What is the reason? The topic was very ambiguous. How could an advanced plane like this be exposed to this terrible amount of intrusions? The engineers asked the producing company to manufacture a complete plane with the same specifications and industry standards in order to test it. And indeed, after hundreds of experiments, it became clear. Unexpectedly, all of these incidents were due to the windows. The windows that were on this plane were square in shape, and because of this, they could not bear the strong pressure due to the 4 corners of the square. The pressure was concentrated in the corners, and with repeated load and pressure, stress occurred and broke. Those around the windows, and for this reason, if you pay close attention, you will find that all the civil planes now have their windows in a circular or oval shape in order to ensure that the pressure is distributed to all points, and thus the frame of the window is protected from breaking. A simple mistake in shape design had serious consequences for lives, planes, money, and the company itself, whose reputation was in ruins. Remembering the Titanic, after the sinking of the ship Titanic in the Atlantic Ocean in the year 1912, an innumerable number of reasons that led to the sinking of the ship were spread. The arrogance was the reason for the incident. It's said that they ignored the warnings about the ice and many other reasons. But the strangest reason of all was the reason that the sailor Frederick Flett said during the investigations, "But in order to understand, we need to go back a little in time." On the first official voyage of the ship Titanic, there was an officer named David Blair who was in charge of the control team. But at the end of the process, the officials in charge of the ship replaced David with another officer, higher in rank, named Henry Wilde, and in fact, David got off the ship. But the bad luck was that he forgot in his pocket the key to the safe that contained the binocular, which the watch crew was supposed to use, and the sudden change that happened at the last moment made David forget to hand the key to the officer who took his place. The result was that the ship moved, and the watch team was required to keep watching without the binocular. Frederick was the first person to see the iceberg with his own eyes. He said that if they had the binocular on that day, they would have seen the iceberg from a great distance that would have allowed them to avoid the accident. As he said, one of the most famous accidents in history would not have happened if one person had thought that he was handing over the key.